Okay, let's start the show.
For Thursday, October 3rd, 2019. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome to an extra punchy episode of This Is Only a Test. We're feeling it. Got coffee, caffeine, and we're back in the studio after recording on location last week at Oculus Connect. I'm Norm, your host, and joined by our standard crew, Jeremy Williams.
Hi, Norman Chan.
You know, I walked into the podcast room.
Yeah.
And I felt so awkward. It was a My Fair Lady moment where we're both wearing the same dress to the ball.
Wah, wah.
But we're in support of the project, Star-Lord.
S, Star-Lords.
Star-Lords?
Yes.
Star-Lords?
Yes.
No hyphen, no space, Star-Lords?
Right.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, you notice Jeremy and I are wearing the same shirt. Imagine how awkward that would have been if we'd done that at Oculus Connect for the videos.
Well, no one else has your shirt.
No, if we had worn this same Star-Lord
Yes, that's
shirt.
true.
Yeah, we
That's
don't
true.
coordinate. That's the point, the moral of the story.
Although you do know that we do share some shirts, and you have told me in the past you don't wear a duplicate on days we'll be together.
That's true. But we were shooting more videos back then.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do wear the version that I hope will complement. If I think you're going to wear your Atari joystick shirt,
Right.
then I'll wear my Nintendo SNES shirt of the same vector graphics, and that may work together. But it's a crapshoot. It's a gamble. I like the risk.
I've never felt more left out of this show.
Wearing
I
a
never
hoodie,
get
though.
calls about what to wear for this episode.
No, the whole point, did you listen? We don't make the calls.
Don't make the calls.
That's the problem. So Kishore is also here.
Oh, thank
good.
you.
Welcome back, Kishore. We missed you last week.
I mean, wasn't I on the show? And I seem to know a lot more about tech.
With the newborn wearing some Asics.
Oh God,
No.
that actually like flashed me back. I'm like, oh, newborn. No.
Yeah, thanks so much to Devindra from Engadget and the Slash Film cast for joining us on short notice last week.
Yep.
We were supposed to have another guest, but it was a great cast overall. But we are back, and we're going to hear about some neural link technology from Control Labs. I want to hear about the science behind that, because sure, I hope you can bring that. But before we get started, I know we're going to go to the part of the podcast that only maybe some of us like. What'd you guys do this weekend?
What?
What'd you guys do this weekend?
So-
have any fun?
Wait, Jeremy hates this section, so I'm just going to do it. So I haven't been on the show in a couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, I was in Toronto for a conference, and I did something so meaningful to me that I literally cried when it happened. I touched the Stanley Cup.
Whoa.
I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I touched the Stanley. And I was first in line. I had skipped this session at this conference to get there, and I ran into the Stanley Cup room, and it's only me and the guy there. And he looked at me and he's like, "Yeah, you can touch it." And I touched it. It meant everything.
But he doesn't say that to everybody, right? Like, you can't just walk in and touch the Stanley Cup.
I believe you can, but I tried to be cool about it. So to me, it was special.
Huh.
And then I was in New York this past weekend and traveling, and I got stuck because my flight got canceled, and I got stuck in DC, and I went and crashed at my sister's house, and they had my luggage, so I was stuck overnight without any clothes. And anyways, so I woke up really early in the morning and put on my pants, and then I had a visitor in my that showed up inside.
Oh, is that a bee?
It is.
What is that?
It is. I cannot make it
Enhance.
full screen.
Command plus.
I can't do it.
Nope. Okay.
I forgot.
It's a tiny picture
Oh, dear.
of some type of
It's a
creature.
Yellow Jacket had crawled into my jeans. And so this is 4:30 in the morning, and just started repeatedly stinging me.
What?
On my knee. And then it's 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I grab at it, and through my jeans, I crush it with my bare hands. I've never felt more like a man than crushing a wasp in my bare hands. It was also really stupid. and my leg really hurts.
How
So,
did you grab it through your pants? Why not just hit it?
I mean, it's inside my pants.
Yeah,
like,
I gotcha.
stinging me.
But I would be hitting it like through the pants.
I just grabbed at something that's causing me excruciating pain.
Huh.
And I heard a crunch.
Did you have a sense that it was a flying insect?
No. Why would you think a flying insect is in your pants?
I would have gone straight to spiders, what I'm saying.
I had no idea what was going on. I actually didn't know it was a wasp until like I calmed down from like the crunch and like unfurled my pants to discover it was inside.
You never want to find something crunchy, unexpectedly crunchy in your pants.
I have this fear often. Every time I put on my shoe, I kind of hit it against the floor and empty it just in case there's a critter.
Well, I guarantee you I'm going to burn those jeans. B, never going to put on pants the same way again.
You ever get nervous sitting on the toilet?
Well,
What?
You know what I mean?
You mean like all the time?
like there might be a spider underneath the seat?
Oh, like that you couldn't see?
Exactly.
That is a very specific phobia, Jeremy. I'm sure there's a name
like
for it.
you're worried about a bug or
Yes, a
like
bug.
the alligator from the sewers coming up. Or a snake.
That's unreasonable.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm worried about the bug. So yeah, I'd like to know the name for that one.
I mean, can't you just build in the habit of lifting the seat and closing it every time?
Too much work.
What are you talking about?
No, that is the excuse for leaving the seat up. I leave the seat up, not because I am not courteous. It's because I'm afraid there's something hidden underneath the seat.
That's right. I'm doing you the favor.
So you
Of
can see,
making
sure that there's
Yeah,
nothing
exactly.
hidden. Oh my,
I
that's
like that.
terrible. No.
I'm using
I
that.
apologize.
I'm using that spider thing.
Wow. Jeremy, anything fun you did this weekend?
No, we talked about this. Cut it out.
No, I like asking.
You?
Anyway. Yeah, I went to the zoo. Went to the
okay.
Oakland Zoo. Brought the baby. Visited some friends.
Oakland Zoo, sneaky great zoo because it has more of like that kind of outdoor.
Yes, it's on a hill. The whole zoo is on a hill, which is very weird. There's gondolas, which is a great place to test a wide-angle lens on some cameras I've been testing, both the iPhone and the OnePlus 7T.
Did you see any wild turkeys?
No wild turkeys.
I've only been there once, and there were wild turkeys as we entered.
Oh, there's some great displays for baboons, and you get really up close, and they're very active. Some of the critters, and they have leopards and lions and all sorts of. It's a zoo, so yeah. That was fun.
All right.
I also watched your Buffalo Bills game. I'm sorry, Kishore, at the end, the last 2 minutes.
Why you gotta be like this?
I was I was ready to tweet like congratulations to you if they had made that last. Like, if they had made that last
It
series.
shows how little of a Buffalo Bills fan you are. Even when they were like marching in for the victory, I'm like, oh, he's going to throw an interception here. You just have it within your soul.
No,
It
was going so well. There was a
Look.
lot of potential.
There's only 3 assured things in this world: death, taxes, and Tom Brady. That's it. Those are the 3
But he
things.
sucked.
Yeah.
He sucked. It was the defense. Anyway,
You know what? Tom Brady does suck.
He does. Yeah, he's a Bay Area local though. He's a local hero. All right, enough sports.
No?
Yes. No. Yes.
Top story this week.
Well, you do want more sports? Because today is one of the most important days of the year. This is the beginning of the hockey season.
Is that the top story?
That's not the top story.
Okay.
I veto that. That's the top story. Top story this week is the Microsoft event. It's October, first of all. How did that happen? We're now in the fall fully. Fall, autumn.
Yep.
You can expect your holiday ornaments, your Thanksgiving, your not just Halloween, but Thanksgiving stuff in your malls and your stores. And as is tradition in the fall, squeeze between a September Apple event and an October Apple event, that will probably be announced soon, is a Microsoft event in New York. I used to go to this event. I used to get to go. I've been to 3 of these. I went to like the one in 2014, 15, and 16. It was the one where they announced the first Surface Book. It was also the one where they announced the Surface Studio. Those are great events, but we haven't gotten invites. And I'm going to be in New York tomorrow because we're in New York Comic Con, so it would have been timely to do it. But there were a bunch of things announced. Exciting things on the PC side, exciting things on the Windows side.
I don't know.
I would say.
I'm not that excited. Excite me.
Okay. Well, let's start from the least exciting stuff first. Surface is the Surface event, right? So it's going to be, it's not Xbox, it's Surface. First of all, bring back the Surface table, you cowards. Bring back, remember the very first Surface?
You mean
was
like pre-iPhone? Like
the Surface table?
Yeah,
the multi-touch table?
Yeah.
That was the Surface.
Yeah. I wonder how many of those things actually sold.
I don't remember.
Because that was super futuristic. That was
It
like the
was.
first touchscreen that I ever saw.
Multi-user
Yeah.
multi-touch. Right, and then they just took the name, cannibalized it, and of course turned it into their laptop line and tablet line. So the new, I can't believe it's Surface Pro 7. That's the stock. The Surface Pro is now essentially the MacBook, like their baseline. It's not the MacBook Pro, it's
Okay.
just the MacBook. Even though
It's like $1,000.
it's $750.
Oh.
It's cheap.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't get you a ton, and there are ARM and x86 versions of it. But it's basically, if you want to spec it out to something that's usable, it's about $1,000 computer. So it's their baseline MacBook. They want to get this in the hands of students and professionals. I always think of it as a laptop, even though it does ship without the keyboard. So you need to buy the accessories to make it actually usable as a laptop. But it's an x86 system. Surface Pro 7, Intel and ARM versions. What I likes, still keeping the headphone jack, still keeping a USB-A storage, and there will be a USB-C plug now. So they do the same update every year where they put the newest Intel processor inside, and they updated the Surface Pen this year. Those things are all kind of expected updates. That's not very exciting. That's just like, if you're in the market for a Surface Pro, then buy the one from this year, or you can save some money and buy the Surface Pro 6 from last year. That was the all-black one, I think. So the USB-C, unfortunately, is not Thunderbolt 3. So, but you can use it to connect to USB-C accessories or charge the device.
And for
there's
people like me who don't know the difference,
Yeah.
what is the difference between USB-C and Thunderbolt?
You get video, and Thunderbolt is much higher bandwidth.
You get video.
Yeah.
So you can't use USB-C. Oh, gotcha. Okay. But they are identical connectors.
They're same connectors, and so you can use other accessories and you can charge it. But there's also the Surface connector charge, their proprietary connector.
Got it.
And so that's going to ship on October 22nd. Now, there is another Surface Pro. They did the Apple thing. The year they announced the 7, they also, I guess the Apple did it with the 8, but they announced two versions. One is a numerical update, and one is the X update. There's the Surface Pro X. And this is their iPhone 10.
This is the one that comes with like an integrated pen, right?
Well, with the keyboard, it has a slot for a flat pen. So finally, you no longer need to stick the pen on the outside with magnets. It can actually be squeezed between the screen and the keyboard in this recessed slot, which is nice. The Surface Pro 10 is interesting. It's very thin bezels, so much thinner. The Surface Pros do have pretty thick bezels. So this thinner, I believe it's a 13-inch display, much thinner, much lighter. It's ARM only, co-engineered between Microsoft and Qualcomm. So they're finally dipping their toes into having some lower level access control to the processor. So it's ARM only, using a Surface SQ1. This is their A chip. SQ1 processor. Now, they're not doing the fab themselves. Remember, the first A chips were not also manufactured themselves when Apple did them?
Right.
They were, I think Samsung made the chips, but Apple just kind of put a little bit of their own secret sauce, and eventually they then did their own semiconductor licensing with ARM and semiconductor manufacturing. So maybe Microsoft's going in that direction, obviously being the most, are they the only $1 trillion company? They're they have the market cap. They have the money to develop their own chips. It does make sense kind of going forward if they want that extra battery life. So this ties into a new version of Windows that runs on ARM. 13 hours of battery life, I want to say. Their display is 2080 by 1920. It's, of course, touchscreen, 3:2 aspect ratio, which I love about the Surface products. And very thin. It's very light. I believe it is 1.7 pounds. And then also no headphone jack, USB-C, no USB-A on this Surface Pro X, but it does have removable storage, an M.2 SSD that it's secured with a screw and a nano SIM slot.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
you can actually swap out the SSD at Microsoft stores and upgrade your own, which is that's like
So I'm
really
gonna
interesting going forward.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say that consumers don't care what processor laptops run. That they just want to see what kind of performance it has. So what is
When you say consumers, you mean mainstream consumers
Yeah.
walking into one of these stores looking for like a student, right?
so what is the draw of this? Is it the removable storage? Is
I
that-
think the removable storage is a big deal because storage is where upsell happens so often, right? Where you see when we look at a big announcement like this and they say $750, that's the baseline starting point, and it's not only the keyboard and the pen that you have to buy, but also it's the memory and storage. And typically, you want to buy that memory. And back in the old days, storage used to be something you could upgrade, and people do kind of find expandability through micro SD slots or through USB hard drives. But that's where all the margin is on these laptops. And so the fact that they would let you replace the SSD
Yeah.
and then with this small M.2 slot is kind of a big deal.
Okay.
And the recommendation, presumably, if this bears out with testing, is that people should buy the one with the more RAM and maybe not the most storage. And you can live with 256 gigs of storage and then buy a bigger storage as M.2 storage gets cheaper.
Is the performance of the X greater than the 7?
No, because it is the ARM chip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to be able to
That's
do
weird.
more with the x86.
But that's where it gets interesting, I think, with the SQ1 is that as you get closer, if they're able to actually get the 7 and this X about the same, now you have this really incredibly thin design that has about the same power as a really high-end laptop. That would, I think, be a big deal that people would care about in terms of performance.
Yeah.
And it's also it's like the Chromebook play, right? The ARM on Windows is a little bit more of a Chromebook play than it is a MacBook play. Thin and light, touchscreen, you get the pen stuff, and you can do all your productivity stuff and all these apps, but you're not going to be doing Premiere editing
Right.
on the Surface
No.
Pro 10. Surface Pro X10, whatever they want to call it, November 5th, $1,000. The keyboards, the new pen is $150, $145, and the new type cover is $140. So, the base model with everything is like $1,200. Yeah, it's still expensive for most people.
And after that, I was kind of expecting that was going to be most of the presentation.
No, well, Surface Laptop. Let's talk about more like standard updates to the line. Surface Laptop, now there's a 15-inch model. That's been long awaited. They have a new metallic finish. Surface Laptop is a really funny device, right? It's a laptop. It's basically Microsoft. They made a tablet that was, I think, a great laptop in the Surface Pro line, and then they just straight up made a laptop.
They have a touchscreen
That touchscreen,
Yep.
and it works with a pen.
and they run the new 10th gen Intel processors.
Yes, so you have that as well. Okay, and then there was
And it got weird.
they get a little bit weird. So these are, I don't even know what the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing isn't even in the tech. The weirdest thing is how far this was announced in advance of a release. That I think is the most uncharacteristic thing in a modern kind of keynote way.
Yeah, there will be another Microsoft event before it's even out.
Yes, there'll be another Apple event. The iPad Pro 2 presumably is going to be announced. iPad Pro 3 could come out before this device comes out. We're talking about the Surface Neo. And long rumored, dual screen uses a special version of Windows that works with dual screen. And it is basically the bring back of the Courier device. It's not bendable OLED screens. It's not like what Lenovo is doing. So there is the seam. The seam is the new notch right now for this type of device going forward. Having a seam between two panels.
It's like having two monitors.
Yeah, exactly. But it has the Surface Book, their hinge that allows it to be rigid in basically any angle.
So what the new Windows is called Windows 10X.
Yes.
Now Windows supports multiple monitors. Why is this such a big deal?
I think it's lower power, and I think it has things built in that allow it to then seamlessly recognize the position.
Okay.
And
maybe
the
kind of treat
pose.
it as one monitor.
Yeah, it's what the Lenovo did with the yogurt stuff. There are poses they can be, right? You can treat it as one monitor. When you drag things across, certain things happen. They have this neat demo where a small keyboard magnetically attaches to if you use it in a laptop pose, the keyboard attaches to the base, but then the lower half of that screen becomes a touchpad, a trackpad.
The big touchpad.
Well, half of that screen, right? And I think it's dual 9.3-inch screens. I want to say. 360-degree hinge, and it's coming late 2020.
I think they said holiday 2020.
That is
The only
so
thing
weird. Why would they do that?
The only thing I can think of is they're just trying to make an announcement to get developers to onboard.
Which is what they said. They said they
Yeah.
need developers to make stuff for this to make it a killer device.
So when they say 360 hinge, that means it'll be closed like a book and then
Or fully open.
all with screen on both sides
Yes,
of a book.
yes. Presumably, for developers to make games, you could play
Battleship.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
You could
nice.
play asymmetrical games folded in half. You could watch 2 movies at the same time. Right? We're across from each
Yes.
other. We could watch Netflix together.
Wow.
Or YouTube or whatever. I'm sure they'll need tech to be able to output, to multiple headphones or something. I don't know. But they're very proud of the hinge. It's supposed to be very light at 660 grams. I want 655 grams, and about 5.5 millimeters thick.
But wait,
You're right. So, first of all, for this Neo, whenever it comes out, I expect this to be a very expensive product.
yeah, it has to
It's
be.
going to be a premium product, which could
$2,000.
It could be. I don't think that much, but
Okay.
I do think it's going to be at least $1,000, which could make it DOA, right? Because none of this device. It's a new category.
What are you talking about, dude? An iPad Pro is over $1,000.
True.
That would be
right. But iPad Pro is an established category. So when people think about purchasing decisions they're making, they know they're allocating money for their phone. They know that they're upgrading laptops every 5 years or so, and they know they may be buying tablets.
Yeah.
And so if this is not a tablet, because it's unlike the foldable OLED screens, it's not a single screen. You can never go flat and have one big
Yeah, I don't
movie
think
or
you
one
can-
big image.
You can't attach a keyboard to it either.
Oh no, you can't. You can attach. You
Really?
can't it's magnetically attached.
Yeah.
It sits in the
Oh,
screen.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
The keyboard magnetically attaches to the back of it, and then it sits on top of the screen, which then reveals the touchpad, the trackpad. But so when people are thinking about devices to buy, like where does this device fit? It's purely a luxury product. Like people are not out of the gate saying, "I'm going to spend $1,000 plus on this new category of product that's one unproven,
I
that
think
developers
calling
have
it-
had a year to work on, and 2 may not replace my laptop or my tablet."
I think calling it a new category is maybe just a little ambitious. I feel like it is a tablet. It just happens to be a 2-screen tablet. I have 2 monitors at home, and I couldn't imagine having a computer without that. And so I could imagine that having basically a tablet that is as compact, folded, as a regular small, like iPad mini almost,
Right.
or one of the new iPads.
You could imagine.
I
but
could
you don't know for
imagine-
sure. It's not a known quantity.
I could imagine this would be something that I would really like.
And their big thing is, like the dream of the courier, RIP, is that this is going to be the moleskin of the future with the pen. You fold it in half, you open it up, you are drawing on one side while having your reference images on the other side.
I think if you're a Note S user, that isn't a far walk to this.
But this isn't a phone. That's why we got to talk about it.
Oh, if only.
If only. And maybe that's the great takeaway. The one more thing, and Panos Panay, I saw your leaks. I saw your tweets. You got most of it right, but you didn't see this coming. The Surface Duo. So while the Surface Neo, Surface Neo Duo, name conventions. The Neo will be running Intel x86 processor, Windows 10X. It's Lakefield. It's going to be the 11th gen. Surface Duo is, and he knew people would be calling it a phone. Let's call it a phone. It will be a dual screen phone running Android. A Surface phone-like device. It'll make phone calls. Also, holiday 2020, running Android.
This is Microsoft's first Android phone.
Kind of not. I mean, it. In retrospect, not that surprising. They have this partnership with Qualcomm. They have Windows on ARM. They were at the Samsung event talking about integration with Samsung devices. So Microsoft is less in terms of the hardware, less about that kind of walled garden design, and open to maybe using something that people like.
I mean, this is a phone. It's running Snapdragon 855. It's running Android. It's a phone. Like, you can call it whatever you want, but it's a phone. It's a
Two
phone
5.6-inch screens.
with a hinge.
It's big.
It will go
Yeah.
to a full 8.3 inch tablet at a, again, 3:2 aspect ratio. I like that. You can run 2 apps at the same time with things that Android could do right now.
But there's still the hinge in the middle.
There's still the seam.
Yeah, there's a seam.
Seam is a new notch. Remember? Let's get that on a t-shirt. And it will work with a pen. And this might be what they're hoping will be the new Moleskine and also cannibalize the Note sales. They want people to get this over the Note S.
I actually understand this a little bit more than the Neo. Because I can imagine somebody using a small. This feels more like a Moleskine type situation,
Yeah.
and it has the multiple.
Is this a primary phone?
I think this is
have no
for
idea.
people. It is. I think this is for people who like instead of buying the Note, instead of those million expected sales units on the Galaxy Fold, maybe they can get some of those people to spend over $1,000 on the Surface phone running Android. Microsoft designed hardware, which has proven itself.
I have a dumb question. So this is that still 360 hinge.
Yep.
What orientation do you answer the phone in?
It must be closed when you're talking on the phone, right?
Closed how? So like,
So when you get the phone call,
there's
it's
2 screens. So like, tell me the orientation.
Wait. But no one holds their phone up to their face anymore. You got to use the Surface
What are you
earbuds.
talking about?
You gotta
How do you use your phone?
You got to use your Bluetooth headset.
Oh my.
Are you suggesting you think that's a use case for this?
I think they are selling that when they market this out, it will be at Verizon stores, it will be at T-Mobile stores and Sprint stores as a phone that you buy and that you use a Surface branded AirPod competitor, the world of her today, with. Or not today, it's holiday 2020.
I think there's going to be silly pictures of it folded with screens on both sides.
Undeniably.
And that's how you have to answer the phone.
Undeniably. Maybe there'll be a special phone app where you have it folded out and you have the phone to your face, and then on the world-facing side, you can display like some marquee text that rolls. Don't bother me. I'm on an important phone call.
I mean, one of the things is like phone is one of the least used apps on my phone.
Because people don't talk. People
I
text.
don't use it as much.
This is a fundamental communication problem. The word phone doesn't mean anything anymore. The word phone is now transformed to, it's short for smartphone, but really it's computer.
What?
Hey, what's a computer?
What are you talking about?
Remember that? Is that the Apple commercial?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You working on your computer?
What's a
computer? Blah, 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 blah.
Although I do recommend referring to your iPhone as your telephone just to get a chuckle.
Really?
Yeah, it's good.
Answering my telephone?
Yeah. We're saying,
My telephone device?
where's my telephone?
I will tell you where I think a product like this would be great is on an airplane.
So it also does the 360 hinge.
Yeah, it has a 360 hinge. I like it on an airplane because it gives you the functionality of a tablet, but it's still like your phone, so you can still do email. It's small.
It's not fitting in your pocket, though.
You don't think so?
No.
I think so folded. Why not? It's
Not
just
my
a
pocket.
thicker.
Maybe they're betting on
you wearing
fashion to turn around, and by end of 2020, big pockets will be back in. Cargo
Skinny
shorts
jeans
for
out.
Everyone.
I think it would fit in your pocket, and it gives you a little semblance of privacy if you're doing it in that kind of book mode.
You remember when Steve Jobs introduced the iPod Shuffle and he had it in his pocket the whole time and it goes in that little jean pocket and no one knows
The
what
coin
it's
pocket?
for? Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's the coin pocket. So you
Yeah.
know what it's for, but no one else knew what it was for.
That's where the wasp lives in your jeans. That's where that.
You'll notice he did not have that in his pocket the whole,
No.
the whole show.
He had it in the audience. He actually grabbed it from an audience member,
Yeah.
a plant. So the Surface event going on right now, people were there, are covering it. Apparently they can hold the device, but they can't turn it on. So these are, again, why show this over a year away from release?
See, this one I definitely don't understand showing it because it's not like you need developers to develop for this thing. It's on Android.
Yeah.
Right. And there are dual screen applications on Android.
Yeah, this one I don't get.
Whatever.
In terms of the announcement.
I'm very curious about this. I think obviously we want to see the Neo. We want to see the Duo a little less. I'm really curious about the Neo. Of the other standard products, I'm really curious about the Surface Pro X and that running ARM and whether that can be a feasible replacement for a laptop or a Chromebook or a tablet. Yeah. All right. Let's get to pop culture. We're in a Marvel Studios lull. No, I take that back. Maybe this should have been our big story this week. Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, but Kevin Feige, the rumor came out, Kevin Feige working on a Star Wars film.
Yep.
Boom.
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 Yes. All in.
Are
Thank
you
you.
now reinvigorated about Star Wars, Jeremy?
Oh, yeah. I suppose that would be interesting.
Right?
I mean, I'm
Here's
skeptical.
a 22 film Star Wars Phase 1, 2, 3.
I'm an intelligent man, so I must remain skeptical.
Okay.
But I would be on board for a Kevin Feige-led Star Wars film. Yes, sir.
So there's no formal confirmation of this. It's all rumor. Kevin Feige is a long-time Star Wars fan, in addition to not only shepherding the Marvel Universe and the MCU. But this is not about him doing for Star Wars what he's done for the MCU. I think that would be many jumps to conclusion.
But if he brings the ethos of develop a film in and of itself, in its world, and just have loose connections to the outside world around it, but focus on like story and craft and character all day long, I want that in the Star Wars universe.
Yes. And also they've already announced, trilogy from Rian Johnson. The Game of Thrones showrunners are doing their own films. There's the Disney Plus stuff. And so maybe he's coming in. If this is true, he could be doing a couple different ways. He could be advising on and producing one specific unannounced Star Wars film. Like, he gets his Star Wars project.
No, it's not. No, it doesn't work for him to produce one film.
It could.
It doesn't work.
Dip his toes.
His magic is in tying together a Seinfeld episode of shows.
Disagree.
I think that would be less news. He could be doing that without any direct involvement. That would just be him sitting in on story meetings.
Yeah.
And Kathleen Kennedy does that. She's great at doing that, and let her do that. I don't think it's just going to be now Kevin Feige is going to bring his universe binding magic to Star Wars. I feel like it's more of he's going to get to lead and co-produce on one film because he wants to play in that universe.
I think he's going to bring an ethos of like these movies should stand up on their own and then have like small linkages out. And I think that is what Star Wars needs, is not like here's a trilogy.
But
that's
they've
telling
already.
a story.
You don't need him to do that. They've already.
No,
been
but
thinking
he's
of
good
that.
at it.
There are keepers of the stories at Lucasfilm.
But it's not about
who
the
could do that.
connection to the other stories. It is the singular focus on one cohesive story in one picture.
I think that's what Star Wars has done actually better than the MCU.
Really?
Yeah.
I disagree.
I mean, okay, if you think about the difference between the production styles of Lucasfilm and the MCU, Lucasfilm actually has been known to be more director-driven in the recent rebirth of Star Wars. J.J. Abrams doing Force Awakens feels like a J.J. Abrams movie. Rian Johnson doing Last Jedi feels more like a completely different tone. And that's why some people didn't like it, because it was something very new. For better or worse, Ron Howard coming in and doing Solo feels more like a Ron Howard movie than it does the Chris Miller Phil Lord movie, or does a Force Awakens or a Last Jedi, and Rogue One. I think Lucasfilm gets directors in to direct films their way, as opposed to what Marvel used to do, which was just kind of get directors in to shepherd a story, a grand vision that the producers had all along.
Yeah, we're talking about two different things. Like, yes, Lucasfilm has brought people in to imbue their directorial style on a film. Yeah, Feige is not all about that in his vision, but he does. Those movies are standalone movies for the most part, and they have their own genre and look and feel. And I think he's done that without it like eroding the rest of the universe.
Here's what I think Feige's brought to Marvel, which Star Wars has lost, and that's a thread that you don't even know is there throughout a series of films that can then culminate in a cinematic event.
I don't think he's essential to that, though. I think that's just a decision.
Well, what do we know about what happens behind the scenes? He's the common denominator. He's the common thread throughout the process. So I assume that he has something to do with that.
I think it also goes to the kind of story Star Wars was telling with both Solo and Rogue One. They were prequels, technically, right? The Star Wars if you look at the timeline of Star Wars, it's much more expansive than the MCU, which happens in the span of 2 decades or a decade, kind of close to real time, a decade, right? For in the real world. And Star Wars, they can kind of jump decades in the past, decades in the future. And so...
But Captain Marvel.
What do you mean about Captain Marvel?
It's decades in the past.
Oh, yes, that's true, yes. But
Feige also hasn't produced a bad movie in about 6 years. He has like a run of 14 movies that have been good.
Yeah.
Not all at the same level, but they've all been in like a category of good.
I think we can want for there to be some type of MCU-like thread for Star Wars and for Lucasfilm to think more seriously about without saying that's what we think only Kevin Feige can bring.
That would feel derivative to me.
Well, the thing is, the Marvel films are so different from Star Wars films. At least the Star Wars films I want to see. Marvel films are self-referential and goofy. They're comic books in movie form, and I think that works so well for Marvel. And I've become more of a Marvel person than a Star Wars person
Because of that?
Yeah, because I think it's so successful at being what it in my mind is good at. It leans into its strengths, whereas I feel like Star Wars films have gotten away from the kind of
Epic fantasy storytelling.
like there's like a serious tone to Star Wars with Yoda in Dagobah talking about the Force and all that. Like that's deep stuff, and I would like to see a return to that. But I don't know. Like I don't know if I know a lot of people say Jedi kind of went off the rails, but I was a young lad and I enjoyed that. But I do wonder if Feige is capable of bringing that kind of that common thread that ties a string of films together. You don't even know what's happening.
A force that binds us.
And with a different tone of filmmaking. I mean, that would be a masterstroke.
All right. Well, if it happens, then he's going to be a busy guy because not only is he doing that, but he's also the big news, and this could have been our top story. The Homecoming. Spider-Man is back in the MCU.
Follow the money.
They've worked it out.
It's almost like that previous story was a negotiating tactic.
So I think it was Variety that reported some of maybe the financial details of this, but it sounds like that all parties were recognized that Spidey not being in the MCU would be a detriment to the brand, the franchise, and that they would get more benefit overall, regardless of what the profit sharing looked like. But it ended up being, it looks like, a 25% share for Disney to finance and also reap from the profits of the next Spider-Man film. And Spider-Man's only guaranteed in the MCU for one more Spider-Man film. They have a release date, 2021, I believe, and one additional unnamed MCU appearance.
And then what happens?
And then they may have to renegotiate again.
Oh, fun. Okay.
It doesn't feel like there could be an end to anything. They fully acknowledge, and Kevin Feige acknowledged this in a public statement as well, that Spider-Man is not only has a great home in the MCU, but he's one of the few heroes, the only hero, if you don't count the Hulk and moving from Universal to Disney, who can traverse studios and universes, because Spider-Man will have his own multiverse as established by the animated Spider-Man movie.
I mean, don't they
Practically Spider-Verse.
Practically speaking, have to negotiate before the movie is even written? Because they have to know what to do with him.
They don't. No.
They have to know what happens to Spidey at the end of the film.
You give so much credit to the grand plans. That's not how filmmaking works. Like filmmakers and writers always talk about how they love writing themselves into corners, because part of the fun of what they do is then when they then start working it and the checks are signed and the contracts are signed and get to work on the next film in earnest, they get to write themselves out of the corners that they previously wrote themselves into.
Jeremy, there was a leak that they shot a scene with Samuel L. Jackson at the end of Iron Man where he references the X-Men. So do not think that there are grand plans in place.
Yeah, that footage is out there. It's on the, I believe, the Infinity
Oh, is
Saga.
it out there?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
But I'm sure there was talk of the acquisition at that time.
No, there wasn't.
Really?
Iron Man was a Paramount film.
Oh, you mean like way back?
Iron Man 1.
The first film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just pure Easter egg. Spider-Man was referenced in there as well. They didn't know. They had no plans. They're just rolling with it. It just looks in retrospect like it all ties together. And that's part of the feat and the achievement. So we're very pleased to see Spider-Man, to see that story continue in the MCU. That means great. We're going to hopefully get Jon Favreau back for Spider-Man 3. Love Happy Hogan. I would not be surprised if at the end of the Spider-Man, the third movie, Peter Parker, Tom Holland gets thrown into a multiverse.
Oh, my.
That would be really great.
The one movie I want him to appear in, the Doctor Strange movie.
No, I think
they won't do it, but that's
because
that'll
Doctor
give
Strange
us the
already has
multiverse.
Wanda.
Yeah, but have
You're true. It's right. If the next Doctor Strange movie is the Multiverse of Madness, You're correct.
Oh, you think maybe like they could pull the Sony Spidey into
They
that?
could just set it up. Yeah.
I think most likely it will be Captain Marvel. That's what the money points to. That's what that's what the odds point to. That the rapport they had, the very brief scene they had at the end of Endgame,
Hi, Peter Parker.
exactly, was so well received. They're both earnest characters that I think that's what people are expecting in terms of an interesting pairing. We don't know. All right, from Marvel to DC, we got a trailer for, hey, there are 2 DC EU movies coming out in the next 4 months. Joker's coming out like in a week and a half or something. It's soon. And then Birds of Prey is coming out early next year. We saw the first trailer for this. There's a full title, Birds of Prey, or The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
So is this a spin-off of a movie I never saw, Suicide Squad?
It is a spin-off of Suicide Squad, although with no Joker appears, no Jared Leto Joker, because there is a Joker movie already.
Just references.
Just references, yes. And it is Harley Quinn with some other DC characters. The Huntress. There's going to be a Black Canary. There's going to be Renee Montoya, Gotham City Cop. And the villain is Ewan McGregor playing Black Mask. Trailer looks fun. Everyone looks like they're having fun in it. Everyone really enjoyed Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn. I think we're going to get a lot more of that. So all signs point to this being kind of a success. Kishore says no.
I'm skeptical because I saw Suicide Squad, but
Did you watch this trailer?
but like yes, I watched the trailer and everything's set up. I hope it's a little like has some mania in it, like the Harley Quinn character has. I think that would make for a good movie. And Black Mask has the potential to be a great character.
Yeah. This is more of a street level story. It's not going to be flying in capes and big, global plans. It's going to be a Gotham City crime story. And it's going to build up to Suicide Squad 2, The Suicide Squad, which James Gunn's directing. He started production on that, filming on that.
Who is Black Mask?
Ewan McGregor.
The comic book character.
Oh, who's
He's a mobster.
He has a skull as a face, a black skull.
No, I saw him. He's Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, so
Is that a
version
his final
of it?
form? His
my.
final form. He's like kind of like Red Skull, except Black Skull.
Oh, wow.
yeah, but he's really just like
He's a
a
mobster. He's a mobster.
I have complicated feelings about the Joker this weekend. The reviews are amazing, especially about Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
It's finally out? Like we can go see
it
it?
opens this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, and
It feels like it's been out for months already.
Yeah,
Because
early
early
reviews,
reviews and film festival reviews.
but I don't know. If I feel like I'm going to be really unsettled by this movie.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, well, Joaquin Phoenix unsettles me to begin with.
This is true. Are you going to all go see it?
Uh,
You're equally unsettled by this movie, aren't you, Norm?
I'm just not interested.
I'm
I
going to
feel
watch it on
bored
video. I'm going to
by
watch it when it comes out at home.
Yeah, it feels like that to me. You know, a movie I really want to see in theaters. I didn't put it in the show notes. There's a behind-the-scenes featurette for an upcoming Sam Mendes film called 1917. Everything about this film, it looks right up my alley.
Something about that story said the best way to tell a story is with one long shot.
So it's a World War I film.
Yeah.
1917, directed by Sam Mendes, who did Skyfall, American Beauty, and great director. It's Roger Deakins is the cinematographer, Academy Award winner Roger Deakins. He'll probably win another one for this one. And it is a 2.5-hour single.
Shut up. The whole
story.
movie?
The whole, and the war movie. They never revisit a location. It's always one soldier on the run. It is Sam Mendes' Dunkirk.
Is it one shot?
This looks
Not filmed as one shot. They did shoot it story
But
chronologically.
it's real time.
But the whole story is told real time.
Got
From
it.
the trenches, the battlefields, the wading through bodies. It is a single story.
Who knows if the
single
movie
shot,
is going to be good, but the cinematography for this looks insane.
Incredible. Has a great poster as well. And this is a movie I can't wait to watch in theaters.
Okay.
1917. Something that we probably won't get probably for another year or so. Stranger Things 4 has been confirmed. Season 4, including that a big overall deal between Netflix and the Duffer Brothers. So,
Oh, so maybe 5, 6, 7?
or a Stranger Things expanded universe. Who knows, right? I don't know. It's a big success, obviously, for
Huge.
them. I mean, the fact that these shows are not like locked in Stranger Things and Glow for seasons on Netflix, because the way Netflix does the internal evaluation of shows is kind of bonkers. Like, this would never be a case for an HBO show or for a cable show, premium cable show.
But it's how network works. Like, usually you don't see shows renewed for more than a season or two.
But they usually renew them well in advance, not like months after the last season ended.
Wouldn't it
usually it's after the first episode's out of the current season, they book it the next season immediately.
Wouldn't it make more financial sense to book seasons, in mass and bulk, and then spend all your money together?
Well, production, it doesn't always work that way, and there's accounting.
Well, at least you hang on to the props that you're going to keep for the next season.
Yeah, and also you allow the storytellers not feel like they have to wrap things up at the end of every season because they don't know whether it's going to be the last season.
But after 2, where there was kind of a dip, I think they were like, is 3 going to continue that decline and we have to wrap it up?
I haven't finished 3 yet.
What?
Have you? You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I need to.
so good.
Is it?
So good.
Okay, great.
3 is a
Maybe my
return to
favorite
1.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's very different tone and all of that kind of stuff, but it's a return to 1 in sort of the joy of the show.
Where do you think 4's going? Because the only thing we know is it is going somewhere.
Well, they told us in the little trailer.
It said you're not in Hawkins anymore.
Yeah.
That's all we know.
Summer camp,
So there's only 2 places to go, right?
Where are we
big
going?
city.
I think they're just going to go all in on the Upside Down. They're going to spend most of the season upside
I don't like
down.
that.
Come on.
I think the small town feels.
That's what they're trying to
But
tell you in the
that's
trailer.
still
Big part of the
Hawkins,
show.
though. That's still Hawkins, I would imagine. It's just the upside down version.
I mean, I've told you all along what I want. I want the other 11 characters to show up.
I think summer camp sounds like a great idea.
Although they did do summer with season 3. Season 3 was about summer.
I like the idea of summer camp.
I do like it too. Yeah, which works with horror story tropes.
Yeah.
And deconstructing those, of course. Bits of pop culture news. There's a director, Deborah Chow, directing the Obi-Wan limited series for Disney Plus. She was a director on The Mandalorian.
Which probably tells you something about how they feel about The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think they feel really great about it.
Yeah.
Called Mando internally.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. She's directed a lot of other TV shows and stuff. Like the episodes she's directed, there's a couple shows that don't feel great about, but a lot of the shows are good. I'm so psyched about her directing both Mando and
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Ghost Rider, which was going to be as a spinoff of the
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., thank you, and was going to be a Hulu show. That's unfortunately canceled. So that's a little bit of a bummer.
The visualization of that Ghost Rider looked really good too. It was like the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider.
And that was starring Gabriel Luna, who is the new baddie Terminator in the new upcoming Terminator Dark Fate. So, yeah, a little bummer for that, but I think they want a little bit more cohesion. That was not going to be a cheap show to do. Uncharted, which previously it's still starring Tom Holland, but was going to be directed by, what's that guy's name who did that Portal short and also Cloverfield Lane. But he left, and so they're looking at Travis Knight to direct.
Oh, good.
The Uncharted
Bumblebee,
film.
right?
Yeah, it was a big rumor of what would Travis Knight do next, and this feels maybe right up his alley.
That sounds great.
How do you feel about an Uncharted movie? I mean, it's basically Indiana Jones, right?
Well, the games are basically movies. Like, you can watch those games if you're not playing them and have a fine time.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a challenge for them to, just like for Tomb Raider, a challenge for them to capture what people think they like about the series and the game and put that in a 2-hour movie without it being so much an overt, hey, this is the video thing you like from the video game, which was the problem with movies like Assassin's Creed and other video game movies in the past. Make it a good adventure movie. Just make it a good adventure movie. And the thing I feel like Uncharted does best, it's not just the relationships and that stuff is all great, but it's that real sense of thrilling tension when he's put in these incredibly perilous situations where buildings are crumbling and he's on the edge of buildings. It's like it's supposed to be a thrilling, edge of your seat style adventure.
Just make a modern day good Indiana Jones film that has nothing to do with vines.
No swinging vines like monkeys.
Right.
And I thought this is maybe one of the coolest bits of news. Time to dive deep into some DC lore. The DC universe, CW universe, big crossover event coming next year is Crisis on Infinite Earths. And we saw our first appearance of Brandon Routh, who plays, yes, Ray Palmer the Atom on Legends of Tomorrow, but also is coming back as Superman, as
And he's
Kingdom
not coming
Come
home.
Superman.
Yeah, he's not just Superman. He's Superman with some underwear.
What are you talking about? What is? Why is there a new?
The
Superman?
suit is
Okay.
very old school.
Let's give some history. Ooh, time for some pop culture, comic book history. So, Superman, as portrayed on the small screen and the big screen,
Yeah.
has gone through a long and storied history. You have George Reeves. You have
Christopher.
No, George Reeves first. And in the black and white serials. Then you had Christopher Reeves, I Believe a Man Can Fly. He made you believe a man can fly. Yeah. Then you had Superman retreating to Superboy. And also then television, you had Dean Cain, The New Adventures of Lois and Clark, a big popular ABC series, and a real big lull then in Superman on the big screen. Then, of course, with the rise of superheroes on the big screen again, you know, Bryan Singer, who had famously directed X1 and X2, did a kind of a coup in while he was promoting X2, he decided to brainstorm a Superman script, pitched it to Warner Brothers, and then abandoned Fox and Marvel and did not do X3, which Matthew Vaughn had to come in to do, and then Brett Ratner, of course, and that all went to shit. But Bryan Singer, then pitched Superman Returns and got to do his Superman movie and cast Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh, then kind of a no-name actor, but did look a lot like, or could pull off a Christopher Reeve-like Clark Kent. Unfortunately, Superman Returns not very well received, so he only had one outing out as Superman. Then, of course, we jump forward, and you have Superman as portrayed by Henry Cavill in Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, and then on the TV side, you also have portrayals of Superman coming up again in the Supergirl TV show, because that's not actually in.
It's in a different universe.
It's an alternate universe Superman. Now that then brings up the idea of alternate universes, because on the TV shows you have Supergirl on the CW, but you also have the Arrowverse. You have Oliver Queen and the Flash sharing their own universe, but they have had crossovers because they have this idea of shared universes. So you also have Legends of Tomorrow with these rogues gallery of heroes and villains that kind of time travel around the world solving mysteries, and all of them are going to culminate in this callback to a very seminal DC maxi series crossover called Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, Crisis on Infinite Earths was a reckoning in the Silver Age and the Modern Age, where because the superheroes had been, at that point, had been written for about decades, they needed to find a way to bring them into the 80s without having to have the burden of all that lore, the Golden Age lore, right? And so they had this multi-universe crossover and collapsed universes. Supergirl actually died in there famously. Supergirl died, and they collapsed universe, so you had then the late 80s, 90s version of the DC universe. That's probably not what they're going to do here, but then it affords them the opportunity to combine crossovers between Legends of Tomorrow, between the Arrowverse, and also Supergirl, with the Monitor and Anti-Monitor being the big villain, and also now bringing past representations of Superman onto TV again, Brandon Routh being the Kingdom Come version of Superman, and also Tom Welling coming back from Smallville to also be a Clark Kent / Superman.
They've already done this with Flashes, so
oh yes, the original actor for the Flash came back. Oh wow, I forgot about that. Yeah,
So it's a TV show.
a TV show, TV event
I think it's going to get real weird
On
because
the CW?
on
Yeah.
the CW.
There's no event on the CW.
yeah, it is. It's a
Oh, sick
multi-night,
Is there?
Yes.
story
An event?
arc. It's totally an event.
What if I don't have cable?
It's going to get
CW's not cable. CW's just
it's OTA.
OTA.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to get real weird. There was one of the episodes had what's that character's name, like Psycho Pirate in
yeah.
it, so they're like
They're
going
deep cuts.
they're going
Real
deep into
cuts.
it.
Yeah.
So this guy is Superman, and he's supposed to be the Superman that everyone's always known.
No.
From a different universe.
From a different
It's a
universe.
different
From the
universe.
future, the Kingdom Come universe.
Okay.
Which was an Alex Ross drawn, Kurt Busiek written. I actually forgot who wrote Kingdom
So
Come.
is he a little different from our Superman?
He is an
Older.
aged Superman who is way more cynical.
Because he's got a little smirk. I'm not in love with his little smirk he's got.
And he also wears underwear on the front.
which is a callback to.
I'm not going to judge him for that.
I'm sorry, Mark Waid did Kingdom Come, of course. In the Kingdom Come universe, Superman. This is also an incredibly important comic book series. Not only for the Alex Ross art, which was a more painterly style, but also the story they told, which was in the future, where Superman retired and retreated away from society because a new generation of heroes was more violent, and the truth and justice that Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman stood for was deemed too old-fashioned and thrown by the wayside. And so you had these new generation of all these heroes, but escalated into just basically vigilante violence. And Superman comes back to set things right.
Good.
And that's the Superman Brandon Routh is playing. I'm super interested in seeing what Tom Welling's going to bring back. Because Tom Welling...
The Smallville guy? The kid. No longer a kid.
No longer a kid. He's
Yeah.
like 40 years old. He's going to be back as well for this. I'm very excited.
Cool, man. We could use Superman right now. Just a little bit.
Yeah. It's not on the big screen, just on the small screen.
It depends how big your screen is.
I guess that's true. All right, that does it for our pop culture segment. Before we get into tech news, I want to thank the sponsor that makes this episode of This Is Only a Test possible, and that's Lutron Caseda's Smart Lighting. Today's show is sponsored by Caseda Smart Lighting from Lutron, pioneers in smart home technology. A lot of people think you need smart bulbs to get smart lighting, but there's a smarter way. Caseda's smart dimmers and switches replace the switch on your wall, so all the lights controlled by the switch will act smart. Think about the places in your home where one switch controls multiple bulbs. Ceiling lights, chandeliers, bathrooms, bedrooms. With Caseda, you save money by replacing the switches instead of replacing the bulbs. And smart bulbs are only smart when there's power there, when they're switched on. If someone flips it off, you can say goodbye to that smart control and connectivity. Caseda switches are always smart even when the switch is off. And with Caseda dimmers, you don't need to buy smart bulbs and store your smart lighting. You actually get the best of both worlds. Smart lighting control from an app or your voice, and control right at the switch. We use it for our nursery so we can feed the baby and then use our voice control to dim the lights without having to go to the switch. And it works really great. Get smart lighting the smart way with Caseda by Lutron Smart Switches. That's Caseda, C-A-S-E-T-A. And you can find more at lutron.com/test, Lutron.com/test. Covered a bunch of the tech in the Microsoft event, but there is still a bunch of tech rumors, stuff left. Let's go with Apple first. First of all, there is a rumored Apple event later this year, still in October, Apple event, in which we expect new iPad Pro, because we did get a refresh on the iPads in September. So new iPad Pro, the leaks have shown it's going to have the 3-camera setup that the iPhone 11 Pros have, which would be a big jump for iPad Pro because last year's only had the single camera. Of course, a new processor, all that jazz. And also anticipated is the MacBook Pro 16-inch. It's the one that's going to replace the Pro 15-inch. And the big question is the price point for that, because people expect very expensive, being a physical revamp. And which processor is going to use 10th gen? Is it going to use Ice Lake? Don't know. And also potentially these Apple tags that has long been rumored. These kind of location-based tags you can put on things and places, and that the new iPhone 11 Pros can get triangulate and get positioning for. So that's a big rumor on that side. Things that were announced at the September event still rolling out. Now, Deep Fusion was a iOS update feature for the camera that they teased and showed a sample picture of, and we are still kind of unclear as to exactly how it works. And we're gonna have to wait a little longer, because while it was a report yesterday, multiple reports that it would be out, Deep Fusion would be out in the latest iOS 13 developer beta, which would then be the precursor to the public beta and a wide release. It has been held back.
Has it?
Yes. So that just broke late last night. Deep Fusion not in the latest beta, held back. But they did release some sample images, and looking at the sample images, I gotta tell you, I'm not impressed.
Well, it's a weird feature. I mean, I agree with you. It does look good when it comes to textures, like for sweaters, for whatever reason,
Have you seen the
I've seen
images?
the 3 sample images.
Have you blown them up in full res?
Well, yes, I have.
Do that on like the dude with the. They're all sweaters, but the dude with the.
Can I do
dude
with her?
picture. No. Do the dude picture.
The dude pictures.
It's the second picture in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Click the dude.
Yeah.
This is the one they showed at the keynote.
Yeah.
You click the sweater, and yes, the
that.
threads of the sweater
Yes.
the details are there.
Look at all that.
But if you
thread.
scroll up and you look at his face and his beard, there's some weird sharpening going on. I don't like. It looks like photo sharpening slider.
This is what I'm saying. I was going to say I think that the sweaters look great, but when it comes to skin tone, it just looks like video. It does not look great. It's almost like they have a weird shimmery, like a fish texture to it that's different colors, like a rainbowish, very subtle thing going on that just looks like video. It looks like a digital shot. I mean, it really does not look any better than a standard digital photo to me.
And it does. Let me looking at the way the beard. Yes, the clarity is there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look natural.
Well, what it's supposed to be doing under the hood is combining the texture from some photos with the luminance from other photos. And it seems to work really well for,
Sweaters.
textures like sweaters. And that's why every photo that we've seen, which is 3, have had people wearing nice sweaters.
You think they'll do a marketing campaign when this Deep Fusion comes out with the holiday season ugly sweaters? Make your ugly sweaters look beautiful. That's a free one for you, Apple.
I mean, it really
Does
does.
it make them look better or make them
very
uglier?
Sharp. No, very sharp. I mean, it does,
Sharper.
And the idea is it will take photos indoors with as much clarity as photos outdoors. But I think the technology is not. I'm sure they'll continue to innovate every year on this.
When we first heard of this, I was immediately thinking like, how would this affect people who want to shoot in RAW, right? Who want to get all that pixel detail in RAW images and do noise reduction themselves. And this makes me, at least in this version of it, confident that the RAW is not going away anytime soon. If you have the time to take a photo in daylight or low light and save the RAW image with an app on iOS like Halide, then you can do your editing in post and get a much better result than the automated picture you're getting here.
I look forward to the day when digital photos, computational photography really is a replacement for SLRs. That will be a great day, but we are not there yet.
We are far from there yet. Pixel 4, October 15th?
October 15th is the Made by Google event in New York. And it's almost going to be anticlimactic because we've seen so many leaks. And the newest leak is that they have auto transcribe of memos. So you can take audio memos and just fully transcribe them. This seems pretty consistent with functionality. It's already built in Google Docs and other things.
Yep.
I'm pretty excited about this. This is a great accessibility feature. This is and I think there's quite a few people, specific slices, journalists, podcasters, others that would use this feature. It would be well to use this feature.
I mean, you can pull up your Notes app and hit the microphone and just do that.
Yeah, it's a little janky though.
Okay.
The idea here is not only is the transcription supposedly better, it's now indexed and searchable.
Cool.
All right. Product news.
Products.
GoPro Hero 8. I can't believe we're working the 8th GoPro already. The Hero 8 Black was announced yesterday.
Is that one a year?
That is basically one a year.
Okay.
I do feel like in terms of the action cameras, where we're hitting that point of diminishing returns, once we hit GoPro Hero 5, I feel like was the last one that really mattered, because once you had a built-in screen in the back
And hit 4K.
and hit 4K 60, you're pretty good. So the big things here, it is a big redesign. It's for first, it will have, I think it has a screw on the bottom that you can use just standard screw mounts on. You don't need to use their cases.
Okay. That's good.
And there will be a place to put some out-of-the-box aftermarket accessories. So there you can have a front display. You can put a light on there. It's actually mostly software stuff for stabilization. It's still digital image stabilization. So they have just more stabilized stuff and hyperlapses and other ways to record your action for people who are out in the field.
Is there really nothing else you want from this kind of product? I would think that people want more frames per second.
Yeah, and
But isn't it only at 60? You think you want 90?
no, like 120 is totally.
Yeah, like it's already at the level of diminishing returns on that.
I just think a lot of action photographers, or whatever you call them, they probably want more than that. They probably does it do 240?
Good
I don't
question.
think so.
Don't know. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with that.
It does do 240 FPS hyper smooth is what they're calling.
Oh, that's their
I don't think it's interrelated.
that's their software
Got it.
thing.
Yeah. So 4K up to 60 FPS and 1080 up to 240 is what this has. More interestingly, product I'm actually legitimately excited about.
I'm guessing it's the Skydio.
It's the Skydio.
Yeah, they dropped the price hugely.
That's the biggest deal ever.
Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar, Skydio was it's a company that makes drones. They had one product out last year. We reviewed it early last year, and in the market, the drone market, the consumer, camera drone-based drone market, it's pretty owned by DJI right now. This stood out by having the first actual usable subject tracking, autonomous flying, and obstacle avoidance system.
Yeah, I mean, it's that autonomous flying aspect that DJI really hasn't embraced as strongly as these guys.
And then DJI has obstacle avoidance.
Yeah.
But
They're all about the human-controlled
you
drones.
fly it forward, and there are stereo cameras that create a depth map, and if an object gets too close, then it will stop.
But this is a product that you would buy with no controller, and you would just set it off and let it fly and
Which
follow
is
you.
not an easy problem because you're talking about an array of cameras all around that's doing real-time world mapping. SLAM, in that sense, drones flying at 30 miles per hour, mapping the world, using the algorithm to then adjust the flight to fly around obstacles and also track a subject.
You tried the original one. You ran into a small wooded area, and the drone was able to navigate around the trees.
And it looks super cool.
And-
It was like magic.
and it was very much magical, but it could lose you.
It could, yes, because
So-
it's just based on the resolution of its cameras.
Right.
And so there's occlusion problems. It can, if you run behind a tree and it tries to do a protective path, but you don't pop out, then it will lose you.
So they have an interesting solution for that now. One, they've dropped the price from $2,500 to $1,000.
Less than half the price.
And now you can get a GPS controller
Yes,
that
a
one
tag.
allows you to point where you want it to go,
Yeah.
but also acts as a tracking device.
beacon.
So if it loses the visual on you, it can use fallback on that GPS and try to recapture.
Which a bunch of previous to Skydio, other drone companies have tried the beacon system, but the marrying of optical base, world tracking, and optical avoidance combined with the beacon, I think makes a lot of sense for this type of product, especially for people who are, if you see the video, on motorcycles, on bicycles. They did release an update last year that allows for tracking of cars. So you're doing a car, because it's all using computer vision. It's recognizing the shape and silhouettes of a person on a bicycle, or of a vehicle, and using that as a way to target the.
I think for cinematography too, it could be really fascinating.
Yeah. So one of the issues I had with the last Skydio was exactly the cinematography. Like its version of drone cinematography was its language, and you were kind of fixed to like its own style. Like you couldn't then tell or manipulate the tracking algorithm to frame you in a certain ways to do something that wasn't that looked more handheld or more user controlled, like you would get with a big jib. I don't know if that's gonna be changed here. I think they're still more focused on the tracking itself and making sure the tracking stays locked in and solid. Also, image quality on the first gen wasn't that great. Like the camera sensor was fine, but the post-processing of the image did look a little chunky. And so I think they're really proud of the image quality of their new camera.
They're showing some interesting things in this video that Kishore has running, where it's clearly navigating environments that are close quarters. And that's something that you'll be able to unlock. I don't think that consumers will be able to unlock that. They talked about that being a commercial application.
Yeah.
Where out of the box, consumers, it will require a 1 meter bubble on all sides, but you'll be able to reduce that to 10 centimeters or so.
depending on what speed you're flying at. I think
Right.
there's
Oh,
going to be
I
a relationship
imagine- yeah.
between speed
Exactly.
and the bubble, the buffer.
Yeah, so people treating this as just surveillance or, flying under things that are being built in order to inspect.
Yeah.
That has a what do you call it? The gimbal, 3-axis gimbal now.
Yes.
That
yes.
can now point upwards so that you can fly underneath things.
Yeah, they had a shot where they're flying under a log that was over a river or a creek, and that was really cool. Flight time's 23 minutes.
Standard.
Pretty standard. Up to 35 miles per hour. Wind resistance, so altitude, depending on what the scenario is, 25 miles per hour wind. So this is not going to be for really windy places. It's going to need to fight that. And the camera they're using is a Sony Camera, 12.3 megapixels. It will do, f2.4, 20 millimeter, a 35 millimeter equivalent, and it's basically 4,000 by 3,000.
And you can buy a controller for it too, if you want to control it.
A transmitter, yeah.
And then it will you'll control it, but it will still use its sensors in order to, fall back on in case you actually accidentally collide in something or would have collided with something.
I don't really have a use case for this, but I haven't been this tempted to buy a drone in a long time.
It's certainly, like, they call it the easiest drone to fly because it has all these safety features. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, it's not something that you buy for racing if you're into speed and fast flight, but it's certainly cool. I mean, if you're an athlete and you're outdoors and you want to get some cool tracking shots, this is amazing.
I also think, like, even though it's $1,000 and that you can get some pretty good drones for value, much less than that, half of that. I think, like, even if you're not an adventure person, you could get some high quality out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the people who are really doing cinematography with drones.
No.
They want full control.
Full control.
Yeah. So this is not for them. This is for, casuals.
I want that hybrid, right? I want the transmitter control where I can dictate the flight path and then have it adjust so it never crashes and compensate for certain types of moves.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that's eminently possible for them to change around.
It's just a software problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can't believe they got it down to $1,000. That's pretty amazing.
Looks cool too. It's smaller.
Yes, and that's a big thing. I mean, the Mavic on the DJI side was so much more popular than the Phantom. Even though the Phantom had better image quality, it's because you could take it anywhere. It folds up. And it turns out when you talk about the camera, best camera being the thing that you have with you, drones, it matters even more so.
Made right here in America too.
Yes, yeah, I think made in Redwood City. Yeah. Speaking of drones, UPS got approval from the FAA for drone delivery.
Really?
First company to achieve the high-level certification from the FAA, and they got it just last week, September 27th.
So I would guess this is for rural areas.
Well, the first application is they're actually delivering packages to medical centers, which actually makes sense. Like, that's why I could actually imagine, like, drone delivery being critical there.
Well, they have landing pads.
Yeah, and they're doing it in North Carolina, which is a mix of, like, rural and urban settings. And so it makes sense. Like, all the other people aren't far behind, like Amazon and Google and Uber that have talked about it. But I think this marks something. We hadn't heard anything about the certifications for almost a year at this point. So we're finally starting to get some movement on that. I'll be interested to see what UPS does next with the certification beyond medical supplies. Are they going to be in that period for 6 months? Or is this in kind of slow play it out? Or are they going to start aggressively trying some niche applications?
And also, it's up over 55 pounds. They can fly at night. So all these restrictions go off once they have this, because they have the certification. It's going to change the skyscape.
They can deliver things 55 pounds?
I mean, if they have the drone to do it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. From autonomous drones to autonomous cars, let's talk about Tesla.
Okay.
A couple things with Tesla. One, there's an unconfirmed rumor that they bought a computer vision startup, DeepScale, for its technology to do more solving of their fully autonomous driving problem that they still have not solved or released. Don't know exactly what DeepScale brings to it, but it's safe to say if they're buying computer vision company, right, because they are in the computer vision business for
That's
their
true.
cars, then we're probably not close to full autonomous driving, unless the technology they're buying here is just for
What are you, joking?
efficiencies for the next gen.
You've seen the summon videos, Norm. You know we're not close to fully autonomous
we know we're not
driving.
close. So that goes to the software side. The latest version, software 10.0, I want to say, unlocks smart summon, smart being just the name, Tesla's name for it, and it allows for you in a parking lot to call your car to you.
Now, you had told me months ago that that the person holding the phone was controlling the car.
If you that's not smart summon, that's just summon.
Ah,
Basic summon, which has been out for a while, basically turns your phone into a remote control for
got
the car.
it. Okay.
In which you can't obviously crash into things. The sensors, proximity sensors, will stop the car, but you can back it. I've used it to back it out of tight parking spaces. For example, if I've got parked in a parking space and then two big SUVs cram me in, I have no way to get in there.
Okay.
I've used the smart summon to back the car out and then get in the car.
But smart summon is autonomous.
It's autonomous, where if it's in a parking lot, it will navigate around obstacles and find you. And the videos showing people testing this do not bode well for this feature.
I can just imagine the shopping mall at holiday season, what this looks like.
Do you have this feature?
I don't know, because I don't have full autonomous.
Oh,
I
okay.
never paid for full autonomous. I don't know if I get smart summon. I will not be testing this feature. Think of the places
That's hard to believe.
related to cars where people are most stressed.
Yeah.
Freeways, stuck in traffic. Parking lots is up there.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's up there. You do not want...
No.
Yeah.
You don't want people backing into their spots, for instance,
Yeah.
taking all that valuable
That
time.
sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Well, the videos aren't great. There's videos of near collisions, photographs of bent fenders, and this has only been out for a week.
And to Tesla's credit, they're not billing this as the future they promised, which is your car picks you up from the mall when you're done with the mall. This is still you're responsible for keeping line of sight to your car
Right.
and taking control of it at any time. And this is merely a convenience factor that's one small step along this road to that. The Tesla being the future car sharing, Uber, pick up your car, pick up you anytime.
This is a level of lazy that portends the end of society, that you can't walk to your car in the parking lot of the shopping
Well, you
mall.
still got to walk to your car because it's not getting that close to you either.
What do you mean?
I think it gets close, but Ryan McCaffrey tested it, and you still have to walk like 50 feet to it. It's not going to right up to you.
So he did test it.
He did.
Did it work for him?
Kind of.
Huh. I mean, I assume that it's working for people. It's just the ones who aren't are getting all the media attention.
Yeah. It's true. The version 10.0 software, though, this is kind of a big update. You got big deal Spotify finally in Teslas in America.
It was but a week ago. You said they'll never bring Spotify.
Yeah, because I thought they'd never signed that deal, and they did.
Wow.
Yeah. Previously, it was only through Slacker, I want to say, was where all the radio is coming from. But this is Spotify, not radio, but Spotify Premium. So if it's
great.
a benefit if you are a Spotify subscriber and you own a Tesla, you can now tap into your playlist and your albums, no ads, and choose exactly what song you want.
Great.
There's also Netflix, YouTube, and Hulu.
Can you use your voice for Spotify?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I could not. Netflix, YouTube, and Hulu, which only work when parked. So this is for people who are at superchargers who need to kill an hour at a supercharger while their kids are there and want to put on Netflix.
They didn't bring their Quest.
And they didn't bring their Quest to yes, exactly, or have a smartphone they want to use. And you are tapping into your data, your wireless data, and there is a cap for that now, 50 gigs, I believe, a month.
Oh, that's a ton of data.
Yeah. This also has, remember, I think we talked about this on the podcast, the I'm feeling lucky feature for navigation. Now, when you hit the navigation search bar, you can do home, work, I'm hungry, or like I'm feeling lucky. And
I want you to
I'm feeling
try that.
lucky will then take you to random points of interest in your city. National parks, city landmarks, hole-in-the-wall restaurants.
Norm, I want you to try this. You have to test this feature. and come back and tell us how bad it was.
This is a YouTube channel. You just got to get somebody who does this every day.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it's going to be like the same 5 places.
I wonder. And are they synced though? Like for an hour, do all Tesla owners get sent to the same spot?
That is a really good question.
I feel like there's some testing in your future.
I need to do a group meetup with a dozen different Model 3 owners, and let's all feel hungry at the same time and head to the same Chipotle. Hole in the wall burrito place. Wow. Smart Summon is also unlocked here, and yes, it will be for EAP, the Enhanced Autopilot customers. So I technically do have it. I will have to test that. I gotta find a mall where
a big
I
open
feel comfortable.
parking space. Yeah.
The Tan Friend Mall. That's a dying mall, right? And then it also is karaoke. Spelled with a C.
I blame James Corden for this.
This is actually probably the most novel feature. There's a selection of songs, Disney songs, show tunes, pop songs, and as long as you click the I confirm I am a passenger at using this feature, it then fills up the nav screen.
Oh my gosh.
With the lyrics karaoke style, where the colors of the words change.
But where do the songs come from? Not Spotify.
Some database.
So it has its own music.
Has its
You have
own
to pick
library
from
of
its
music.
library.
Yes, which from my browsing through, it's a long list.
Huh.
And not only can you choose optionally to turn on the text or not, you can turn off the vocals, and so you get just the instrumentation.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's really karaoke.
Wow, my kids would like that.
I know.
Where does the disco ball come out of in the car?
Yeah, how do you hook a microphone?
Question.
You want a mic?
Oh, you got to bring your own mic.
with reverb.
This is
That's
with
oh
reverb. Nice.
yes.
This is a one-time use feature before you realize this
I've
is a
used it
mistake.
twice already.
Wow.
Singing the song, singing Moana to the baby.
It wasn't Moana?
It was a Moana.
Wow, all right.
Yeah, they have Lin-Manuel's version of "You're Welcome."
What do you mean Lin-Manuel's version?
His singing of it. It's not.
I didn't know he sang that.
Yeah.
Huh.
He has. I think on the CD, it's like an early version of the song, like he
Really?
sings, or it's his version of it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Did he co-write that song? I know he worked on
Yes.
the soundtrack.
Yes. I think he co-wrote that song. So it's version 10.0, and
It has a rap. I guess that would make sense.
there's also a new Joe mode. I haven't used this. Which
Perhaps
is
this is the most innovative feature.
it's meant to avoid waking up sleeping passengers by you reduce the car's chimes. So all the sounds that the car makes is diminished. Maybe good for a sleeping baby.
Custom made for you.
Custom made for babies. The app can do things like roll down the windows, and then they have improvements to the Sentry mode. So the Sentry mode video files are better stored, and the structure in your USB key file structure.
You didn't mention Cuphead yet, did you?
Oh, Cuphead's also there. Yeah, new games. Cuphead. I haven't played it yet. Gamepad support.
Just the first level. But
Oh.
it's difficult.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
that's a lot of stuff.
Big update.
Oh, car update.
I know.
We don't get car updates.
I'm sorry. Yeah. iOS 13, Tesla version 10, Quest version 9. In fact, let's talk about that after I let you know that this episode of This Only a Test is also made possible with support from Thinkful. If you're looking for something that'll take you further, an education with outcomes, and a team dedicated to you, you should check out Thinkful. Thinkful is a tech boot camp that's building the world's next workforce with online courses in software engineering, product design, data analytics, and data science. Whether you want to make more money, change career paths, or just expand your employment options, when you join Thinkful, you're supported by a team all focused on one thing, launching your new career. With Thinkful, you'll even get one-on-one mentorship, career coaches, and a thriving local network on hand to make sure you get hired within 6 months. And if not, Thinkful will pay your tuition back so you know you're future-proofed. No wonder their graduates have joined the ranks of companies like Google, Amazon, IBM, and Boeing. Thinkful wants you to think about quitting your job and starting your next career. Visit thinkful.com/onlyatest today to start building the future you want and take your place in the world's next workforce. That's Thinkful, THINKFUL.com/onlyatest.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
Before we talk about VR, there was one story, a thing. I'm probably sure I talked about this top. I discovered a new podcast that I'm really curious in. I'm really interested by. It's in part of Radiotopia, so it's part of the family of PRX podcasts that Roman Mars does with 99% Invisible, and it's a narrative podcast, the radio drama, called Passenger List, and it stars Kelly Marie Tran from Last Jedi, and it's a mystery, but recorded kind of in the vein of like a serial style, investigative podcast series.
Multiple voice artists.
Multiple voice artists, environmental Foley that's done, make it
Nice.
like they're doing phone calls in coffee shops, and it's a whole mystery about what happened when this plane crashed.
Fiction.
Fiction. But it's one of those things that if you did not know was fiction, you were listening to it, it would sound like
War of the World. Or something.
yeah. It's like a modern day War of the Worlds in podcast form.
Very good.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little science first?
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I played the music and everything.
Yeah, I know.
I just never listened to it. This is part where I tune out of the podcast.
Thanks for that review. Red meat, is it good for you or bad for you?
Bad for you, right?
It's bad for you.
But I eat it anyway.
Why is it bad for you?
Heart disease.
Heart disease.
That's generally been the conventional wisdom for a long time, that if you eat too much red meat because of both the fat in it, that it leads to increased risk of heart disease, that especially if you eat like steak that is like sort of charred on the surface, there's carcinogens in there.
Yeah.
Sodium level, like we can keep going on and on and on between stuff. A study this week came out and said, hey, are we sure about that?
Mhm.
And there was lots of headlines that came out in the past week that said like red meat, not bad for you based off of this study. Here's what the actual study said. They actually looked at the same underlying data as the recommendations that have long said that red meat you should eat in moderation. And it came to a slightly different conclusion. And their slightly different conclusion is that the underlying data, while indicates some statistical significance in terms of increased risk of heart disease, isn't strong enough to make the recommendation that you should eat less red meat.
I can eat more red meat.
So that's the interpretation of it. Like the scientists are basically like arguing over the interpretation of this result. And what they're really arguing about is basically the same is this idea that when it comes to nutritional data, it's nearly impossible to give you really hard and fast recommendations, because what we'd have to do is recruit like thousands upon thousands of humans, make them eat red meat constantly.
I volunteer. I volunteer.
Volunteers tribute.
I volunteer.
You basically can't do anything normal in your life, control this. So unless like some billionaire steps up and says like, we're going to control a population of human beings for a directed period of time where they only eat red meat.
But certainly you could find people who have done that.
It's really hard to do and control for all the other factors in life. You have to control for exercise. You have to control for genetics. It's just a complicated problem. And so all this study has really come out and said is like, we don't think the data is as strong as it has been reported in the past, which then got translated into red meat's not really bad for you. But frankly, like the takeaway from my read of that study and the previous studies, we'll really never know if red meat is quote unquote good or bad for you. But the general idea that eating it in moderation is good point because there's a slightly higher risk of heart disease associated to it, it's probably going to be true.
We use ground turkey on taco night.
But ground turkey is better than ground beef and tacos.
I've come to think so. I didn't used to, but I've come around.
Yeah, that's not a red meat choice. That is just a taco choice. I agree. I think it carries the taco seasoning better.
Right on, man.
I'm with you. All right. What is next? What am I supposed to talk about next?
Control labs?
Mosquito.
Okay.
Oh, I'm supposed to talk about control labs. Yes.
You are?
I will talk about control labs.
Crossover.
There was a mosquito study that came out. So in Brazil, a company called Oxitec has engineered mosquitoes. And a few years ago, they released these engineered male mosquitoes so that they would not be able to effectively reproduce. And so by doing so, they would be able to sort of, for all intents and purposes, neuter future their progeny. And so they won't be able to produce. And then you can kill a whole strain of mosquito called Aedes aegypti. This is ethically complicated.
No.
For many reasons. No? You're like, go to hell, mosquitoes? That's how I feel.
It's the one insect besides wasps, obviously.
No. Mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on the planet.
Yes, I say be gone.
By
with them.
far.
Be
And
gone.
Aedes aegypti is particularly hardy. And so it is hard to kill in many ways, like from spraying and all of those things. It has been tough to kill. And so this idea of using engineered mosquitoes that could lead to what's something's called gene drive, where they pass down their genetic information and effectively kill off members of that species. It's ethically challenging because you have to make sure that that genetic variant doesn't translate to the wild population of mosquitoes. It doesn't get out beyond the species that it's intended to affect. So a study came out in Brazil saying, like, we see some evidence that it may have actually done that. And it's limited evidence. The company has come back swinging really hard, saying that their evidence is flawed. This is going to kick off a storm of activity about gene drive. So there's a lot of dissent here. This isn't normal dissent, too, where it's like, we don't know what this data says. It is like disagreement about the fundamental way like the data was collected. We don't agree with the nature of the data. This is like a really big deal because, as I said, mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on this planet based off the diseases they carry, the sheer number of them, the infection rates they cause in humans, just their whole vector nature. And so I think this story that's developing in Brazil is going to be one of the big stories in 2020 in science about whether or not this trial that Oxitec went under was actually effective. Oxitec was a UK-based company. It was bought by a US-based company. There are plans to do similar trials in the US. So this is like big deal study.
You know, there were no mosquitoes in Hawaii until the white man came. And
What?
and there still are no snakes there.
There are no snakes in Hawaii?
Truly paradise.
That's true?
Wow.
I
it's like
belie-
the opposite of Australia.
I was told that when in Hawaii.
Is it the
By a
white man
snake?
or just the fact that mosquitoes are just traveling everywhere? And it's
I
like,
believe it was the ships.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's how they came, but it's not, it's so much, you can't just blame it on sort of the travel. Mosquitoes were going to end up there with anything. I want to show a visualization, if I can remember how to do this. Nope, I can't. This is a famous picture of a
black hole.
black hole. I'm going to hit play on it. And so
Make it bigger. Hit the big button.
I'm trying.
There you go.
Your head is in the way. So this visualization of the black hole
Why hasn't this been on the screen the whole time? That's awesome.
came out from NASA. So this is based off the image they took of a black hole. And black holes warp space and time.
Oh, I've seen Interstellar. That looks familiar.
So this visualization is going 360 degrees around the black hole. And what's crazy about this visualization is what we're seeing right now is sort of looking head on at the black hole. But because of the way the black hole warps light, bends light, we're seeing sort of the bottom of the black hole reflected on top. And then when we spin around it, you'll see it goes sort of flat, two-dimensional, but there's a ring in the center.
This would be
of
so
it.
much more effective in VR.
It's crazy in VR, I'm sure. There's a photon ring there of light that just gets trapped and is spinning in a circle all around until it finally like releases out towards us. It's also crazy that if you look closely at as it's spinning around, the left-hand side is brighter than anywhere else on the disk, especially when it goes 2D. And that's because the gases are accelerating as it goes around and is releasing massive amounts of heat and light at that point. This visualization is one of my favorite science visualizations of this year of what it looks like when we're traveling around. Because when you start to think about it, like you cannot trust the photons coming at you as moving in a straight line. They're all being bent around and being curly. So you're looking at something that is fundamentally reshaping the geometry of the space.
Wow, it's perfect for ray tracing.
Control labs. Should we talk about control labs?
Let's talk about control labs.
You want to play music first, or you want to do that thing?
Oh, yeah. Should we do it in the VR minute?
Let's do it. The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
Do you want to talk about the hand tracking thing and then
No, let's talk about Control Labs.
Okay, so it was announced at OC6 that Facebook had acquired Control Labs, the startup based out of New York, I think, or outside of New York, that had done hand tracking. And you both talked about it a little bit last week, that you wear this bracelet type thing. It's actually kind of up your arm, and it gives you incredibly low latency, almost near real time views of your hand. Fully tracked.
This is not available. Mark Zuckerberg said this would be a part of the next generation of VR headsets.
Right. So about 2 years ago, Joey and I were at a conference called Mars that Jeff Bezos runs. And after we had piloted Spot, because that was fun, we walked over and Control Labs was set up. And they had the bracelet on an upper forearm and showing how hand tracking worked. And they kind of explained the tech to us.
Great.
And essentially, like the bracelet is detecting both your muscle movement but more importantly, the electrical impulses going through your nerves.
But it is doing muscle movement too.
Yes. But I think the electrical impulses through the nerves was actually more important in terms of their hand tracking. And so they're able to, now you have like a speed of light game. Like the electrical signals that are going through your nerves hit the point on your arm where it's going up to tell your fingers to move.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's being read by this device that's on top of your arm. And now it's translating via the speed of light over to some computer to analyze and represent that. And so what they were showing is like you could not tell the difference in time. It was like milliseconds between when your finger would move. It was less than that. And when the computer is able to show it on the screen.
So there's latency, but then what about accuracy?
So it was like, I can tell you about my experience of watching it on the screen. So one of the Control Labs employees had it around his arm and was like moving his finger around. There's no occlusion anymore.
Of course.
Because there's nothing to occlude. Yep. And he would do complicated hand gestures and it was picking it up perfectly rendered on the screen.
So the positional tracking of the hands would still be done by the headset in the future.
Yes.
But the actual movements of your fingers themselves will be augmented by this new system.
That seems like what the announcement last week indicated. I mean, Control Labs was just showing us the rendering based off of the bracelet at the time Joey and I were there. It felt like magic to me that they're able to generate that much motion data in an accurate map of a finger movement based off the bracelet.
What you saw, all of the tracking was being done by the bracelet. And it was one-to-one, everything that you did with your fingers?
Yeah. And
like making a fist, making a peace sign? I don't understand that. How is that possible?
But if they're tracking the electrical impulses through your nerves.
Dude, you can't just say that. That's like science fiction. We can barely even read mind, thoughts. We don't know what's going on in electrical impulses in our wrist.
There is an old video that it's never been released. We actually shot video with them and talked to them for a while. It was like that experience. Like I still don't fully understand the underlying tech of it. But that's what we're seeing. They did admit like it took a lot of training. So it wasn't like they could just slap the bracelet on me and have that same accuracy.
Okay.
And there were still some downsides, but the person that the system was trained on, it wasn't faked. It was like I was watching him move his hands in complicated ways and it was rendering. Yes, it was like freaking Luke Skywalker in that medical bay.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
It was crazy.
I mean, that's potentially transformative for people who, are amputees who can now have potentially virtual hands.
Yeah.
And interact with virtual objects in VR or AR.
And then they showed us like the ability through those gestures to manipulate a physical device. So like a robot arm to actually go pick something up. So you had to do specific movements that were mapped to the gestures. Mm-hmm. So you like close your close your hand into a claw, and that would close the claw on the robot arm. That was less sort of precise because you could see how like you had to get the gestures just right and be tuned to the device over there. I was sort of less sort of taken away by that because there's other technologies that I've seen that have mimicked that better. But the idea of what's potentially happening in VR with a bracelet like this seemed pretty cool. And by bracelet, I mean like it was not this like heavyweight kind of thing.
What are the future applications of this kind of thing?
Obviously, there's some hand tracking applications.
Potentially, you could do it for toes. Like you could do it on your feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you eventually move this up to into your head? I mean,
But why would
what
you
else
want
are
to
you
track
doing?
your head?
well, so you could potentially read deeper intentions, like so you could control the entire arm, for instance, or basically. So I just want to be a brain in a jar eventually that is
Still
then
full Futurama.
connected to an infinite number of claws and gadgets. Is that where this is going?
We only talked about hands during this.
Strap these bands everywhere.
I guess the muscle movements is key to this technology, so that it wouldn't work purely with brain power.
I would imagine not, or they'd have to re-engineer the whole thing.
What can they deduce purely from the electrical impulses?
But even if you don't go to like full sci-fi Futurama version that you had there, just having that kind of data on hand movement opens up a lot of possibilities.
Absolutely. I just can't believe that you can do that already. I'm surprised more people aren't freaked out by this. You guys,
I think people are freaked out, but it's non-invasive, so it's less freaky than potentially tapping right into your brain directly.
I mean, the thing
surgery.
is, I didn't try it on. I don't know what the training process is going to be. And
I
that was
think
my
that-
first reaction when I saw it last week is like, what is it going to take to tune? How are, basic things like you being sweaty or having hair on your arm, all those things, like how accurate of a placement do you have to have? There's a million different things that come into play.
Black Widow wristbands. Okay.
telekinesis. I mean, that's where it's all going.
Exactly. That's Control Labs. There's a bunch of VR stuff going on this week. First of all, the HTC Cosmos comes out. We do have one process of using it and testing it, so the review probably won't be out till next week. This is the inside-out tracking replacement for the HTC Vive, high-resolution display. And from early reports, you know what? I think battery life is going to be better than people expect from the controllers. It's not just going to be those 2 hours of battery life. So thankfully that didn't end up being the case. On the Quest side, on the Oculus side, Quest version, software version 9.0 is out, including many of the features that were just announced a week ago from Kinect, including Pass-Through Plus is now on the Quest. There's also the quote-unquote dark mode for you to turn off tracking.
That was not announced.
No.
And it was this big surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, we were curious about that. Like, we saw the Go stuff was coming, but Go obviously doesn't require any kind of cameras or light. And we thought maybe you'd still need that with the Quest. Apparently not.
It's called, it's a developer, it's a setting, advanced setting to turn off tracking.
Well, when the lights go so dim that there is no
option
Quest
for tracking.
for inside-out tracking, it will give you a message.
Yeah.
And it will give you the option of going into basically, Go mode, which is pure 3 degree of freedom tracking, where you can look in any direction, but you can't move in any direction.
As well as the Go compatibility is out with this release. So those 50 plus titles.
I like how they did
certify.
this. It turns out there's more than 50, by the way. I think there's 66 games, but they put them in a different category. Like they're not just thrown into the Quest store, which I was worried about. That would be, how do you tell the difference easily? There's a drop-down menu where you then can go to Go/Gear VR titles.
Yes.
And get them there. And anybody who bought a title that was in the Quest store that's now been released on Go got a refund.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, I mean, they got a store credit.
Right. And you can now force a manual update of software. So you don't cross your fingers and hope you'll get updated. But this is after 9.0, so you can't force the 9.0 update. You can also do a remote wipe on the app if you're sharing headsets. And so it's a pretty good update.
Well, unfortunately, the Go games are lackluster. I was excited for Coaster Combat, which isn't on the list. There's another one by the guys who are making The Room, which was like a super secret agent game where you fly around in a jetpack around a city. I enjoyed that on the Go. That's not here. I I'm hoping that more Go games are coming. I mean, this 66 is a lot of games, but the ones that I enjoyed aren't necessarily on the list. Daedalus is on there. That was a good one.
They're allowing new experiments, so you can opt in to it's equivalent of like Steam Beta, and but the first couple experiments are not super exciting. They added people you may know suggestions in the VR feed, as well as high score notifications for things like Beat Saber updates in the mobile app and VR. So that's Quest updates. No word on Link. That's still going to be November. I mean, I'm more worried about the cable.
Availability
of the cable than anything now. And I'm really curious.
I think we'll be using short tethers for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
Did you get any idea how expensive it's going to be?
$80.
Which apparently, like, if you price it out, that's not a bad deal.
That's not that bad.
People have found like long fiber optic USB cables, and they've been much more than that.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, you only get the charging benefits of the cable if you're running it on USB C to USB C. USB A to C won't get you the charging.
That's
benefits.
fair.
Is that true?
I think that's the case.
Why is that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Or maybe you won't get as fast charging.
Okay.
Maybe they don't have bandwidth to do both.
Yeah.
Well, there's different
The cable
cables.
design has one part that's the fiber optic for data, and then another part for power.
Yeah.
But USB C theoretically you can get more power out.
That's true.
Depending on the USB C output.
It's true.
You know, when you're plugged in your motherboard, that shouldn't be a problem. And then a couple games. There's a release date for Pistol Whip.
That came out a week ago. Yeah, people knew that at OC6.
So what is it? November 7th is when that's coming out. Also, just announced today, another Walking Dead game. There are going to be 2 upcoming Walking Dead games.
Really?
I'm confused. One's by Survios, and Survios has Walking Dead Onslaught. This is a license from AMC, so it's based on the TV show Walking Dead, and it's going to be a zombie fighting game coming out later this year. They said fall 2019, but you know it's dismemberment and all types of physics and zombie killing action. And then just announced today is a Walking Dead game, not with AMC, but with Skybound. So kind of how like Telltale did their Walking Dead series, but it was more based on the comic than it was on the TV show, with even though they had similar or some overlapping characters in terms of Glenn. This is the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners with Skybound and developed by Skydance Interactive. That's a film production company that also has a digital media arm. And this one looks to be actually maybe more interesting than the Survios one. It's a little more of a RPG. There's interactions with NPCs. There's a little bit of building trust with them, betraying them. There's going to be some, the melee action with the zombies and a big inventory system where you're storing weapons and you are finding things in the world. So an action RPG called Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and that's coming out early 2020.
Did you know that Cloudhead Games, who's doing Pistol Whip,
Yes.
and did the gallery,
And also did Aperture Hand Lab.
did you know they did Aperture Hand Lab?
Yeah, I knew that like the day I went to Valve to try the Index.
I did
and
not know
tried
that.
Aperture
I did
Hand
not
Lab.
make that connection until just now.
They also did a big blog post about how they work with the writers at Valve, who provided the scripting and the dialogue, and then while they
cool.
did all the programming for the interactions. Yeah.
That's a nice little portfolio.
Yeah. No, Denny and his team are great. And we would love to play Pistol Whip.
Yeah, next time you see us at Oculus Connect, grab us.
Grab us. We want to play those games. What other things in VR news? Oh, so Oculus has started releasing some videos from Connect, including the talks on hand tracking. I believe there are 2 sessions they did on hand tracking. One about the computer vision requirements and how they found that headroom and how they, what type of compute they use and what type of hand tracking they use. And then the other one, which was super interesting, had some of their interaction designers talking about designing UI for hand tracking and the kind of gestures and poses they experimented with, and a lot of like the kind of base framework they use just to build lots of prototypes. So it really sounds like, and completely fully acknowledge, that a lot of this research was done with previous hand tracking companies like Leap Motion, and a lot of those employees actually work at Oculus now, working on hand tracking. But the ray casting stuff they talked about isn't just ray casting from the forearm. They talk about ray casting in a way that would be a 2-axis, a 2-point ray axis. So they would find, for example, a point on your shoulder and your wrist, and then project out a raycast from 2 points. depending on where your wrist was. So it could be like they had a lot of different ways to raycast out.
Great.
And also the mechanism, we talked about passive haptics in our impressions video, but the way they would simulate a click. What is a click? Is it just hitting two fingers together? Is it going to be index finger, middle finger? But they came up with this idea of a 2-action click, which was a pinch, grabbing by an object and then pulling outward. And then that lets you then drag up and down through lists, through menus, through radio dials, or even pull and release to actually click. So a lot of things are thinking about definitely for putting hand tracking in the UI as a primary interaction.
It's exciting. I mean,
through the
we've
UI.
been playing with touch for feels like 3 years now, 2.5 years. And
I mean, we've saw it, but
people are
LC 2, right?
But I mean, it's been out since,
yeah.
the end of 2016. And people are still figuring out how to best use those controllers and what mechanisms work best. And here, hand tracking is about to come online and start all over again.
I think saw a Twitter thread. Ian and Uplivier talked about speculating what if Go doesn't go away, the line, because there's Rift, there's Quest, and we all assume Rift on the desktop side may fade a little bit until they come up with another thing. And the assumption also is that Quest may be the only product going forward because it kind of
does
encapsulates
both.
what you need for the Go. But Go could also go forward if they designed Go as maybe a hand track only device, a headset.
It has to be cheap though.
That's why it would be cheap. You wouldn't need to pay for the controllers. It would have cameras, and you could have experiences that were just hand tracking. That's kind of an onboarding to VR.
Well, presumably those cameras and the sensors that they require and all the hardware.
Think about
costs
Quest.
money.
Quest is $400.
Yeah.
They sell the controllers for $70 each. Take away let's say their cost is $100 for the controllers. I could imagine a Go in the future that maybe is slightly less powerful than the Quest, but
Perhaps.
is still has positional tracking and has hand tracking instead of controllers as the entry-level non-gaming version. But you'd get hand track games. Could be possible.
I think the hand tracking is definitely compelling. I'm as worried as some people are about, the games being fantastic. It's gonna be a matter of making games specifically for hand tracking, or experiences for hand tracking that aren't some sort of conglomerate of both touch and hand. But I think the thing that has going for it is it's built in. It's a firmware update. Like, this isn't a module that you have to add. Then it would never be successful. But your installed base is going to be 100% of the Quest owners that have this feature. So if you're going to make something novel that takes advantage of it, I think there's a big incentive.
That's the big exciting part about this implementation of hand tracking is the immediate number of users who are able to use it. And
exactly.
the lessons learned. So how fast you can iterate experiences based on that, because there's a customer base out there.
That was something
potential-
Leap Motion was never going to achieve.
Right, and developers having incentive to develop hand tracking apps because they know there's hundreds of thousands, if not a million, Quests out there by the time it comes out.
Looking for a novel experience.
Yeah. Anything else in VR you want to talk about? Anything you played through Vader Immortal Episode 2?
Yes, I did. You know what? I mean, like with the first one, the word on the street is that the best part is where the
dojo?
replayability is the dojo, where you can now throw your lightsaber and use force powers. And that's the one thing I haven't done yet. But I will tell you that I'm in the camp that felt the story mode was a little lacking. Just a little short, not as interesting as the first one, maybe even. And whatever, I'll go back to that dojo and I'll spend some time there. But I still think that they're worthwhile because they're doing something no one else is doing. This kind of interactive storytelling. That's not a video game.
Yeah. They want to say it's not a video game. It has a lot of video game elements to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I even died. It's
Right.
more of like you're triggering events that make the story continue.
Yeah, there's immersive activities that help propel the story forward.
Yeah.
And you're really in there for the voice acting, for the animation. Animation's really good. And to kind of be in that part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Under Mustafar.
I have a small VR plug. These two haven't tried it yet, but the company I work for produced a 360 VR video about infectious disease outbreaks in Bangladesh. at discoveridc.com, which is really intense. And I love like seeing the combination of science and VR together. It was a really insane project.
Very cool. And that does it for this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. Hey, we had some breaking news as we were recording this. Remember we talked about that USPS drone?
Yes.
Well, they did a demo of it for press, and it failed spectacularly. They're blaming it on the radio interference from camera equipment from the press there. But the drone deployed from a truck, a special truck. It looks like a UPS truck where the top of the truck opened up. This is the future. The drone lifted up. And I don't know if it's going to be in this video that they show. Oh, there it goes. And it did not. It failed to take
Oh
off.
God!
It looks like it like hit some
And,
sort of break.
and then the lid tries to close on it. Oh, that's and they didn't show that part.
Oh, I thought it was going to hit somebody. Okay. That's,
Oh, poor
good.
drone.
Yeah. A little more work before this is going to be ready. That does it for the show. We have an outro.
We do. Let's hope this works. Let's boost this up a little bit here. Boom. And Jesse's back. Wohawk.
Hi there, I didn't see you. That's it. You might notice, if you're watching the screen, that this shark is glowing. It's like highly fluorescent in its nature. Just like
Lay him down.
lay him down. Fluorescent.
Lay him down.
Glowing.
They got the chime. Yep. Lay him down. Let's start there. Lay him down.
Amino acid called tryptophan. You've heard of tryptophan? Come on, Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yeah. Turkey. Turkey. Lay him down. Eyeballs. Okay. Lay him down. They're not, perfectly hemispheres. Lay him down.
Really? Lay him down.
Adam's got an eyeball guy. Yeah. You want a good eyeball guy. You do. Lay him down.
Capillaries.
So good. Lay him down. Show him there.
Really? Lay him down. It's crazy. I love science.
I love glowing animals. I love glow in the dark anyway, but the fact that they're alive is awesome.
That was amazing.
That's part of the show.
I'm watching somebody created a motion tracked way of controlling Untitled Goose Game, and so they have like a flap and a bill, and they have the ability to like spread their wings, and so now
To really embody
the goose.
Be the goose.
Be the goose game.
Be the goose. Let us all be the goose.
Hey, if anybody knows of any exercise equipment that hooks up to a TV and is a video game, let me know because I'd like to buy one.
The Wii, you're gonna get Wii Fit
You're gonna get the
recommendation.
new Wii Fit.
I want a elliptical where I'm running away from zombies.
Someone's must have made it. Yeah. Wait, so is your TV like a big rear view mirror or something?
Yeah, how are you gonna run away?
AirPlay. Right. I don't know. Maybe I'm third person. Whatever.
No.
Yeah, why? I could be third person.
Maybe you just turn the treadmill away from the TV and you have to look back every once in a while, and it's surround sound, and you still look back toward the TV. You know, looking back while on a treadmill will fuck you up.
I can imagine.
That's not good.
I don't turn around when I'm running anywhere.
Yeah, on a treadmill you will get fucked up.
Okay.
That's advice to live by.
Okay.